Wait a minute. Here we go. We're good. And we're here. I have to legally tell you I'm recording you now.
Yes, yes.
Right, so this is my my good mate, Peter Thorburn. I met Peter maybe not 10 years ago, but several years ago when I was working.
Pretty close.
Yeah, quite a while when I think about it. I was working for a Ministry of Health funded project around reducing alcohol and drug harm in at-risk communities. And Peter was a trainer, delivering a bunch of training on how to do a brief intervention and a whole bunch of other alcohol and drug-related stuff. And I was very taken with not only his deep knowledge of alcohol and drugs, but also the way he presents in his own lived story, because it's really, really fascinating. It's really, really interesting. And Peter has been a guest of Our Majesty's prisons, which is very much where he decided to, I guess, turn your life around?
Yeah, man. Well, you know the story, but spent 20 odd years addicted to drugs and alcohol, was a meth cook for a long time. But really, in 2005, I decided while in jail, I wanted to help young people and keep them out of jail. So I went back to school, qualified initially as a counsellor at MIT, and then went to AUT and did qualifications in addictions, and then another 4 years at Auckland Uni in Health Sciences. But at the same time, I'm really about developing the capacity of community to self-heal instead of relying on services. I don't think we can rely on services as much these days to fix our whānau. I think we need to develop the capacity of whānau to self-heal. And so a lot of the projects I get involved in are at a community level where we try and empower peers to find a way through systems and to enter into a realm of peace, I guess, to find a place, even though they have struggles with addiction and mental health, that they can still be a contributing member of society and thrive and survive in this world, So that's what I'm all about. And my passion is youth, of course. Yeah.
And you're super busy. Like, you're delivering like hundreds of lectures and seminars and trainings every year. Like when I saw you last year, when you were delivering a training that I helped organize, I couldn't believe how much you did. Do you find that emotionally draining?
Yeah, man. Well, the week of the lockdown, I had 6 trainings booked. One Monday full day, Tuesday full day, flying to Wellington that night. I was training back Oranga Tamariki on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday trainings full days. And it's kind of been interesting to adjust to. I still get up at 4:35 every morning because that's what I've done for the last sort of 14 years, and then a realization there's nothing, my business sort of technically disintegrated in front of my eyes, and so I sort of, what are we going to do from here, and then I just got all energized about trying to do stuff, and it was quite stressful. And so I just turned around and said, well, actually, no, this is a privileged time. I've got a month where I can actually spend time with my kids, teaching them how to cook and teaching them how to identify things in nature and go for walks and actually just get my mental health and just rest, bro, So I'm in a place of zen. I've got a lot of projects starting to come online again, but yeah, really just sort of taking this opportunity to spend time with the whānau, bro.
Yeah, I've got to say I've bonded so much more with my stepson just in the last 2 weeks, because we've just, normally I work every night in the gym. And I'm out and about all day. Yeah, I'm the same as you. At first I was the same. I have to be a productive member of society and do all this stuff and be like impressive. But now I'm like, well, I don't get up at 4:30 like you do. Like, I'm not about that life. Like, I wake up at 4:30 or 3, but that's because I'm an insomniac, not because I want to be awake.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm the same. I've come to a place. Did you find when all your work and all that space emerged for you, did you find it like quite emotionally discombobulating? Because I got quite like upset. I felt a bit teary, and I think much of my identity is wrapped up in what I do. And then I was like, well, who am I if I'm not doing anything? Is that the same for you?
Mate, I burst into tears because, well, I came from jail, as you know, and for me to get to where I was in my It took me 10 years of working through systems. And then I finally, about the same time we started our businesses, 3 odd years ago. And sort of just got to the point where I was separated from everyone I'd worked with. I was now known as my own sort of entity and identity. And then just to watch that go, mate, yeah, I had a cry. I panicked. I thought, what the hell is going to happen from here? And then sort of after that, I realised my wife had to go out to work because she works at Middlemore Hospital. And I was in a survival mode at that particular point in time. And basically, I just didn't want her to go. And we've been together 15 years, never really had any arguments. We see everything eye to eye. And I just wanted to protect my family, and forget about everything else. So and we sort of argued about, no, you've got 40 days annual leave. You should just take it off, and we'll get through this and we'll survive. But being a first responder, working at the hospital, mate, I can't leave my colleagues behind. I've got to be there, and then the realization, okay, now I've got to take in that parenting role and try and keep a business alive and going. And then I sort of applied for the government funding, which I'm thankful for. Yes. And that's given me a month to sort of just say, hold on a sec, let's evaluate life and let's just take stock of where I actually want to be. Yeah, I do deliver a couple of 100 trainings a year, but some of them aren't what I'm passionate about, you know what I mean? So let's just take this time, spend time with family. And I'm passionate about, like you, mental health and addictions, and human sort of well-being in general. So yeah, I just want to see how I can do it a bit more effectively without being tied in and locked into so many systems, which sort of push me one way and push me the other, and a bit more freedom, I guess. So that's where I'm sort of heading over the next month or two, trying to see if I can achieve something like that.
So perhaps having to be in 6 different cities on 6 different days, like an online platform or something that you can scale and reach more people, and at the same time spend more time with your kids.
Yeah, that's the one. And decongest the roads and do all those sort of things, and it's funny because I think this is a time, everyone says everyone's mental health is going to be impacted severely, but actually, if it's done right, this could be the transformative stage of how we actually operate in New Zealand. And actually, instead of stressing every day, going to work in your car and in traffic and all that, are there opportunities where we can work differently that's going to sort of change our mental health and well-being? We're a nation of everything, yet we still have the highest stats around drug and alcohol consumption and mental health, depression and suicide, as so is this the time to let the planet breathe a little bit, and rejuvenate, but also allow us to do the same thing? And that's sort of where my platforms are going to head over the next couple of weeks. I'm doing some work with Te Waipuna Pūwai, and it's how to use this as an opportunity to find centre, find well-being, find a spot that, coronavirus can't do anything about it, bro, at the end of the day, we can stay safe, but how do we remove the anxiety from everyone and go, hold on a sec, this is actually quite a good thing. It gives us an opportunity to reflect. Lots of people have lost their jobs and lots of people around the world are losing their lives, but I'm mindful that actually we lose lives every day from a range of other addiction and mental health issues in New Zealand. Is this the opportunity to put that health and well-being budget into play? You know what I mean? Yeah.
That's an interesting one. Okay. So, because when I saw the lockdowns going on, and with my lived history lens and my professional understandings of mental health and addiction, I was really worried about the fact that, say, off-license liquor stores are considered an essential service and they can deliver from home, and there's been a rise in Facebook advertising for liquor stores. Yeah. Are you worried that there's going to be a big negative flow on when it comes to substance use from this period of time?
Actually, it's interesting because Kyle, of course, went on the news the other day sort of saying that just maintain over this period, maintain your addiction. And we're hearing that come out from a few different spots. To me, realistically, I reckon this is a wonderful opportunity to actually put a plan in place to reduce the amount of consumption, right? You know, if we look at alcohol, we it costs us around 8 billion a year in harm, right? At 1.6 billion in Monday'itis, 70% up to 70% of our weekend crime is alcohol related, right? You know, where 30% of us consume more alcohol than we do every single week. And that's a reflection of us as society, right? We use it as a way of coping with the shit that goes on in our world. But if we can, over this period, actually start to go from drinking 2 bottles of wine a night down to four standard drinks, or remove 15 packs of Cody's and Woodstocks and reduce it down to a 4 pack, and so we're not sort of. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to get some education. Like, alcohol's the only one you'll die from realistically if you withdraw, right? Methamphetamine you can come off without, or actually prescription medication you can die from if you come off over this period, but pretty well every other drug you can come off over this period. And with alcohol, actually it's quite safe for the majority of people to reduce or come off alcohol. It's only if you're consuming on average 25 or more standard drinks per day, right, over a sustained period.
Which is a lot of alcohol.
Like,
that percentage of people who are physiologically addicted and consume that much, that's a small percentage of people, isn't it?
Very, very small. So depending on whose figures you're looking at, anywhere up to sort of 3%, right, of the population. Generally 1 to 3% will be physically dependent on it. So if you're drinking a 1 litre bottle of vodka or gin or bourbon, 15 packet of Woodies a day, 3 or 4 bottles of wine a day, then you might need to be medically detoxed, right? And there's strategies around getting that for those people. They will need to maintain their alcohol consumption. But for the majority of others that are lining up 4 streets, 5 streets down the block, many of them could actually look at reducing their amount of consumption.
This is because I saw Kyle's post about maintaining your drinking. Yep. And, my father's a chronic alcoholic, as you know, who was physiologically addicted, and I had to get him into detox over the summer, right? And I'm well aware of the fact that you can go into like a grand mal seizure and all that sort of stuff, but I think there's a real need to be careful about putting a headline out that says just maintain your substance use, because I think a lot of Joe Blogs who aren't chronic addicts who will go into a seizure and die, like, cool, YOLO, I can just keep partying while I don't have work, right? Yeah. I think we need to be very, very careful with the messaging around that, because I agree with you. I'm not encouraging everyone to go abstinent and quit drinking, but if in this time when your routine's gone and you're stuck at home and maybe there's some stress with your partner, or you're not used to having 3 kids around you all the time, and you're leaning on alcohol, that can actually lead to a whole bunch of social harms that we want to avoid, right? Like, I think it's great what you said, that there's an opportunity here for us to experience the feelings that come up inside ourselves and look at new ways of dealing with them, huh?
Yeah. Like, look, at the end of the day, I'm not the fun police, and I know you're not, and it's not about taking away.
I am a little bit.
Well, not taking away the Friday night wines and cheeses, but taking away the need to consume on a daily basis, right? And see if you can get 1 day off it or 2 days off it. Like, recommended as World Health Organization is to have at least 2 alcohol-free days and to know exactly how much you're drinking. And if I sort of said what the standard drinks are per week from World Health Organization, we'll get some shit feedback, right? Because it's not very much. And we're not going to do that to people over this period of time. But, just be aware that every bottle of wine has 8 standard drinks. A woman should have no more than 10 per week, right? And so if you're doing 1 or 2 a night, you are starting to fall into that category of quite serious associated harm with alcohol. If you can get it down to having your 1 or 2, 3 standard drinks a night with a couple of days off, and maintain that there, to get through, then you're going to be in a much better place mental health wise, physically, financially, and the associated violence with alcohol and stress, we know is astronomical. 52 to 53% of Friday and Saturday night crime is male assault female under the influence of alcohol. So if we can sort of reduce the consumption, we can reduce.
Wait a minute. Wait, can you say that again? Sorry, my connection went a bit funny there. Can you say that again? 53% of...
It's between 50 and 53% of a Friday night and Saturday night crime in South Auckland is where I get those figures from, but it will be, as most places, is male assault female under the influence of alcohol associated violence, right? And when you're locked down and you're stressed and there's financial stress and now you're consuming alcohol, then that violence is going to increase. And for me, this is an opportunity. We know that most people that struggle with severe dependency have some form of trauma, right? And that trauma, we're not responsible for, right? They're not responsible for, but as men, we're responsible for our healing. And this is an opportunity to heal, man, take the month off, spend time with your kids, get away from the alcohol, sort of connect with some people online, watch some TED Talks and that, around emotional intelligence and how to sort of connect with the right people, To me, it's an opportunity, and I think that's the way we need to look at it. I don't think this lockdown is going to finish in 2 weeks, bro. Personally, I think we're going to see another 2, 3, 4 weeks of lockdown after this, because it's like, I'll put it this way. If you're in a gym, if you're in a fight, UFC fight, right, and your opponent standing in front of you, right, and you smash him and he's about to go, right, you don't just walk away and go, we've got this sussed, eh? You finish the job, right? And I think it's the same with this. In 4 weeks, we're going to be showing that we're in an okay place, but if we lax out, we're going to leave that fighter standing with the opportunity of finding a way through,
Back in, yeah.
So
I love a good fight analogy. So first, because you're right. Trauma is 100% a key driver of the comorbidity of bad mental health and, of course, substance abuse or addiction, which I think people also need to understand the difference between abusing a substance and being addicted to them. But we can get into that. For someone out there who's never really thought about their trauma, their dad's trauma, their dad's trauma, and what to do about that, where do you think some easy starting points are for them?
For me, we're on lockdown, right? So at the end of the day, the internet is a wonderful place there's some, we know people within the sector that have TED Talks and that Matteo and just connect with some really good opportunities online. There are plenty of people doing Zoom conferences at the moment around violence and helping yourself with anger. And so really at this point in time, it's about doing it online, connecting online, 1737 number, of course, all those sort of things. But really it's about finding who you are, and this is a great opportunity to do so, I reckon. If you're sitting at home, you can sit at home, watch TV, drink piss and go, poor me, right? Or you can sort of say, right, this is an opportunity to take stock of what's gone on in my life. And yes, many of us have been through trauma. I know you have, I have, right? And at the end of the day, we're responsible as men to find a way through it, right? If we've been through that trauma, we don't unload that trauma on our kids. We don't unload that trauma. Well, I've got the T-shirt on, bro.
I'm looking at that. I know, it's great. Trauma can be passed down from generation to generation. So can your healing. That's wonderful. Because I was thinking about this. You taught me many years ago about the concept of operant conditioning.
Yeah.
If our kids are watching us be pissed off and take it out on a partner, or crack open a Cody's every couple of hours or every couple of minutes, that's what they're learning is how to do it, and they move into adulthood, isn't it?
Oh, and particularly over this time. So, often our youth go to school, they learn from a range of different interactions at school, right? What their teachers showing them, what other youth are showing them, and they come home with that knowledge, and they get some knowledge from their home environment. But at this point, all the knowledge they are gaining is from the home environment, right? So, if
Wait. Sorry, Skype is hating us right now. Sorry, I missed that. Sorry, Skype totally took your Oscar speech away from us. Say that again. They're going to school and they're...
Well, when they go to school, right, they're learning from their teachers and all their other peers, right? So they get a range of different ways of seeing the world. But when they're locked at home with the parents, that's all they're seeing at the moment. That's all they're learning at the moment. So, if they see you drinking at 2:00 and associating that with, fuck, we've got no money, I need a drink, or man, this is shit, I need a drink, then they are picking that up. And when they get to that teenage years, whenever they find a stress in their life, oh, mum and dad drink, or mum and dad did a bucky, or mum and dad did, and then they start to lock into that themselves. So we've got to be, it's okay to have a drink, but when you associate that drink with, man, it's been a hard day, or man, this is shit, or man, I hate the virus, I need a drink, or man, we're broke, I need a drink, then those cues get embedded in those young people that are watching, right? And so when they get 12, 13, 14 now, and shit's going down for them and they're struggling, they've got these cues, these conditioned cues that they've picked up from those people that are important in their life. And there was a meme on the other day that I had to have a laugh at. It says, it's not funny, it is, but it's not. But in 10 years, we're going to have a whole bunch of youth that have been homeschooled by drunken parents, right? So, and when you think about that, if you're drinking daily from lunchtime on and using this to party, you've got a month of that kid's learning is associated with that. So it's, well, and I think it's going to be longer than that. So we'll see anyway.
Yeah, you're going to extend that, are we?
Oh, I think they have to, man. It's not good for the economy, but I think we're one of the only sort of countries at the moment that's really got it sort of locked down. If we release,
Yeah, I agree with you. I saw some figures last night that showed like a slight dip in our rate of presenting cases or, new cases of COVID. And it was cause for cautious optimism.
Yeah.
People who are, I saw a discussion the other day online, for people who are seriously addicted to drugs like methamphetamine, and perhaps it's harder to get your usual supply because you can't see your dealer or whatever, is that a genuine concern? Because I was like, I'm pretty sure you can get methamphetamine way easier than you can get a lot of things.
Oh, mate, you can get meth in prison, right? So this lockdown is, mate, there'll be a whole lot of letterbox drops and sort of hidden sort of bags around the place and cash transactions, and that it will still be rocking and rolling.
Yeah, that's what I considered too.
Yeah.
When I think about that, some people are chronic addicts to a range of drugs, alcohol, methamphetamine. What do you think about countries like Portugal that have decriminalized? And, we've got our cannabis referendum coming up in September, if we have an election in September. What do you think? Do you think that we should move towards a decriminalization model, not just for cannabis, but for all drugs? What's your take on that?
Oh, look, we'll get in trouble, but yes, I do believe that we should decriminalise it. I don't think New Zealand is ready for it at the moment. We can't even get our head around cannabis. And although it is shifting towards the idea of legalisation of cannabis as being the most appropriate model, we've still got some entrenched beliefs and a whole lot of nonsense out there and propaganda out there around it. I think it would be funny, personally, and this is just my sense of humour, if cannabis was the cure for coronavirus, mate. Then the referendum would go the right way, but that hasn't been proven yet, by the way. Just let people know, but. For me, at the end of the day, we punish young people primarily for the use of marijuana, and those young people are predominantly Māori and Pacific. and come from a history of trauma, grief, loss, hurt, abuse. And by giving them a conviction, we're just preventing them from thriving later on in life. All of us can come through our trauma. You know, you've done it, I've done it. Thousands of people around this country have managed to come through, you know. So giving them the conviction, sort of treating them as criminals at a very, very young age. Most of them are under 25 that get convicted for it. So just sets them up to fail. And really, we should be putting our resourcing into more effective treatment options for our young. We've only got one treatment facility for young people in New Zealand, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got Odyssey House, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking of Altered High, but yeah, that's not a treatment facility, is it? It's not residential.
And actually, all the youth organisations, so Altered High and the likes, do some really good work with our young people. But they primarily come from a harm reduction for our low to medium use, not our ones that are dependent, you know. Not many of the young people that I work with that come through Oranga Tamariki or sort of some of those places would connect and listen to someone that says, oh, you just need to reduce the harm associated with drugs, you know. It just doesn't work for them because they've got that trauma underneath it, or it's that sort of that needs to be dealt with first. And just putting harm reduction strategies in place when you're trying to deal with the complexities of shit that's going on in your world isn't an effective strategy. But we treat those with more dependence realistically as criminals, right? And so when they go into treatment, it isn't holistic. It isn't sort of a nice utopia where you can actually deal with your trauma and find a way through. It's a prison environment pretty well that, you know, that you are sort of got so many strong rules and without the ability to unpackage what sits underneath. And for me, that's an area that we're struggling with. We've got lots of young people.
Yeah. And also, prison is just a whole bunch of people who are equally traumatized and have got maladaptive coping mechanisms, and it normalizes or your like fucked up ideas about what's okay and what's not okay.
That's
like
right.
I know people who have gone into prison as kind of medium to low risk offenders, and then they've like come out like mad gangsters. Like it is not being a positive experience if we're looking at stopping recidivism and helping someone heal, right?
Oh, we called it rock college back in the day, you know. You come in as a intermediate and you come out with a degree, you know. It's like
you become a doctorate of crime. Good,
yeah.
a PhD. Yeah, Poremo. Oh, mean G.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. But okay, so what would you say to someone who doesn't believe that? Who someone's got a tough on crime, lock them up, throw away the key argument? You know, if I'm being the devil's advocate and I'm saying, well, those people hurt other people and they deserve punishment, what would you say to them?
I just really hope for them that their children or grandchildren don't become dependent on drugs and alcohol or mental health challenges. You know, it's really interesting. There's going to be a shift, I reckon, after this, where a lot of those that were middle class to sort of upper middle class that had a lot of wealth tied into what is currently getting sucked away. Many of them are going to experience mental health and addictions over this period. And those that have come from a struggle and found a way through, they're the ones that are going to, I think, are going to thrive in this particular period of time, right? There's a shift. And I think there's going to be more empathy as we come out of this, right? People are going to start to understand that actually we are in this together, right? You know, so who knows? Well, that might be a bit of an idealistic sort of, you know.
I love your optimism. I've seen a few jokes about like, who's going to hate socialism now? You know, like, not that, but like, it's not like we've suddenly become like, I don't know, a socialist country, but you know, this is not harsh capitalism anymore. You know, like we're all dependent on the government for like payout. You got the same payout I got out as a self-employed person. You know, like, the state has really stepped in to fill the gap where the market's not anymore. And I think that really highlights some really key points. You know, like we need a government to be involved in society and moderate all those excesses of what has been touted as the way to, you know, social happiness and human development, which is a neoliberal capitalist model for the last 40 years, which hasn't worked, which is seen, as you know, like that trackable rise in like shitty mental health. You know, like we've become, well, I would argue, we've become further and further pushed apart through our societal system, and now we're suddenly being like, oh, actually, I need to come together, right? Like,
well, that reminds me of Johann Hardy's yet again. The opposite of addiction is connection, right? And when you sort of think about it, this is a time. Like, I think you put something on Facebook not that long ago about going for a walk around the neighborhood and actually interacting with people instead of sort of just running on past them. And we're getting the same deal around here. You know, me and the kids go out for a walk. Everyone's respecting the space, but everyone's got a smile on their face and everyone's saying hi and how's it going? And, you know, to me, that's a good thing, you know? So
I know people in my street that I've lived in for years, and I've deliberately stopped wearing my headphones because I'm like, I need to listen to like metal all day. Now I'm like talking with people. I'm taking the lady down the end of the street, been in because she's had an operation, and like, I don't know, it just feels nicer around here. You know, like, is that the same where you're living?
Yeah, mate. My wife does our grocery shopping because she gets exposed to corona.
Yeah, right.
You've gone black and white.
Oh, have I?
Yeah.
I know. I think I've got shit internet connection, which is not great for someone who wants to start doing YouTube interviews. Am I back? Am I back in colour?
Oh, you're starting to come back in colour now. Yeah. But we've been, when she goes to get the groceries, we've got an elderly lady that has been our neighbour since we moved in here, that can't go. So we're buying her groceries and things like that. And, you know, I think it's, I think it's an opportunity. And I think we've got to get the message out there that we need to look at it as an opportunity of finding a better way, as opposed to worrying about what we're losing, which is actually really a pretty shit world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. But there'll be people out there who are like, it's not a shit world. My share portfolio is amazing, and like I own like all the property. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but they're the same ones that I'm working with their kids with severe anxiety and depression. Like,
really?
I think I told you I went to a decile 10 school, all female school in Auckland. There was 90 students. I was lecturing year 13 health sciences, 90 students, and over half of them were on prescription medication for depression and anxiety. So that's 45 out of 90 students were taking prescription medication. And to me, that's our world that is driving that, right? It's their mum and dad working.
For people who don't know, so to kick off, decile 10, in New Zealand, our school system is decile rated from 1 to 10, 1 being most socioeconomic deprivation, poverty, 10 being most affluent. So, yeah.
Yeah, so these are the most wealthy of wealthy in our Auckland environment, and half their classes meet the criteria for depression and anxiety. So a third of them will end up dependent on alcohol and or drugs, right?
Yeah.
And so the cycle continues, and it's driven by a world that, you know, if you've got the flashes of everything, you seem to be, you know.
Cool, yeah. I see that around here, man. You know, I live in like a nice neighborhood in Auckland. I rent. I can't afford to buy here ever, but I'm grateful to be able to rent here. And you see people who are very economically successful, very, very affluent, but because of the stuff I talk about, they're the same people who will message me like, hey man, like drinking too much, or I'm seeing 4 women at the same time, and like they're searching for ways to deal with all the affect inside themselves because they found out that having a great hot property portfolio doesn't actually make you that much happier, if happier at all.
In fact, it probably empties you as a person, right? Because you spend more time worrying about the markets than you do spending with your kids at home.
I know. I
And,
know.
and that's the struggle, because that's our next wave of suicide, next wave of addiction, the next wave of, mental health, is coming through from the expectations put on by society and parents and that capitalist sort of way of seeing the world. Man, for me, at the moment, I am cooking breakfast for my kids and teaching them how to cook their own breakfast, right? And they're doing their own washing now, and they're mopping the floors, and my wife's got charts for them. They're actually learning how to survive. And to me, just watching their smiles and just being with them, that's joy, right? That's what life is all about. I'll never be rich just because of the way I am. I've had all the money in the world illegally, but I used to weigh that shit back in the day, but it never brought me happiness, bro. I can tell you. Yeah.
I've never been in this space in life where I had to weigh my money. But yeah, I'm the same as you. Like, yeah, sure, I'd love to own a house. Like, that would be cool. But what gives me a sense of what makes me real stoked is that moment I'm putting like basic free workouts up on Instagram, and I've had people from like Sweden message me. Like, I'm not a huge internet person or anything. I don't have a huge following, but like a kid in Sweden was like, I went running, and because he saw my video, right? And I felt real good after it. That makes me feel fucking great. It makes me feel so good.
Yeah.
I'll be like, yo, Claire's my girlfriend. I'll be like, Claire, this kid in Sweden went for a run for 2 kilometers because of something I said. And that makes me feel like my life's worth something. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, and that's it. And for me, you've asked me what I've been doing over this period. Well, I've been talking to people that are struggling, right? And I've got a mate who is 8 weeks off methamphetamine. His partner and his kids have sort of left him while he was under active addiction, and so he's isolated and at home, and he's got no one to talk to, and so just being there for him whenever he needs it, and I've got 2 or 3 young people that, yet again, it's not about the money. It's about how do we help people get through this period of time, and there's, I've said it many a time, but I get higher now off getting that feedback from helping someone than I ever did off any drug. It's that sort of, yeah.
Great. Yeah, man, I'm the same as you, brother. Like, I would have to say that it would be wrong of me to say that everything I do is completely selfless, because I get a good feeling from doing it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I think that's okay. Like, hey, look, let's close this up. But for anyone who is looking for stuff that they can do at home for their own mental well-being, or to support, I think this is another one, or to support someone else's, and of course any substance use that goes there, what are a few things that you'd like to put out there before we go?
So look, reach out and ask for help is the key. And for anyone that wants to come off methamphetamine or reduce their alcohol consumption, they can ring 1737, or they can find me online, right? At messnz.com, or and I'm happy to talk to people around that process. No charge at all. That's what we're here for. Next Wednesday, the 15th, I've got an hour and a half Zoom on self-care, mental health and well-being over this particular period of time, some tips and a conversation. That will be up on my Facebook page. And then we're getting feedback at the moment from the community around what other trainings they would like. So if anyone's watching this and wants to jump in on a training, anything that people would like to learn around mental health, addictions and well-being over this period. So next Wednesday, the 15th, is a 1.5 hour special, and then the following Wednesday there's another one. The second Wednesday we haven't got the topic yet. We're just sort of working on that. But I'm going to do a few more of these sort of things, and perhaps we should look at doing something again in the near future. A couple of different topics, maybe.
I'd love that. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Maybe we should have a debate around 5G.
Bro,
no, I'm not going to start on that, but
oh wow, okay, well, let's go there next time. Brother, what's your website for anyone who wants to check you out?
Messnz.com is my website, but they're actually better to find me on Facebook. It's Peter Thorburn backslash mess. You know.
I'll find. What I'll do is I'll put your details in the description of this video.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, Peter. I just want to acknowledge that you're like tuakana to me, big brother to me, and I look up to you and your knowledge and your generosity of spirit, and I'm really glad that we're on Earth at the same time together. And thank you for taking the time to talk with me today.
Oh, mate, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to have a chat and actually learn a little bit more around this computer stuff, because it looks like I'm meant to be doing this for the near future. So Zoom and Skype is something I'm just starting to learn. I'm an old bugger, mate. 50 this month, next month. So
you're 50 this.
In May I'm 50. So yeah.
I just turned 40 in February.
Yeah.
It ain't so bad. I kind of like it.
Yeah, 40's good. 40's good.
A little bit creakier in the mornings, but hey, brother. All right, man. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll talk to you very shortly, huh?
Cool, bro. Peace out.
Okay, bye.